So we're going to start on this. I've made a little line with pencil just to say where the sky is and where the ground is. And we're going to start off with doing this color here, which can be a mix of yellow and red, orange, just depending on how bright you want it to be. I'm going to wet the sky area, and it's the same message as always. No puddles, but a sheen. So it's spread evenly around. Paper's taped so it doesn't buckle, theoretically. And we've got plenty of water. And we need your spray bottle to be handy in case we need it. And I do mean plenty of water. There's no great puddles there, but there is a good sheen on that one. Sky. So I'm still using that same big brush that I used to wet. And I'm going to go in with a little bit of yellowy red for that bottom bit of the sky. So I made this mix from light red and lemon yellow. I use light red for a lot. Now I'm lifting it up so that it drifts upwards. And then I'm going to go in with some alizarin crimson and a touch of that light red in the alizarin crimson, the light red and yellow, just to give it the same sort of hues. And over the top, overlapping. Now, hopefully, you've not got a line. If you have, just go over it with a damp brush and it should move into each other. I've got most definite lines, so I'm back into the yellow and going over it again. It should just sort of, the edges should fuse in together so that you can't really tell at which point it turns from this color to that color. And I'm going to just do a line of a darker red at the top. I've used alizarin crimson, straight alizarin crimson there. And I'm just going over with a damp brush and just, now that's dry at the top there. So clean brush, clean water, and I'm just going to re-wet. We've still got plenty of heat, so just re-wetting that top bit. And I'm going to go in with the mix I said of cobalt blue and light red, but you can use indigo and a bit of alizarin crimson, indigo and a bit of red, and just pulling it down from each side so that I've got some dark clouds over the red. It gives it you're thinking you're looking at darker clouds going. So I've just pulled it quickly. And I need a little bit more dark at the top. It's still wet, so I can still do it. Once it gets dry, you can't. I'm going to leave that there and let it dry. I just want to darken up the top bits, so I'm going to use a spray bottle and just spray water on those top corners, re-wetting it. And then with some really dark paint, just come in the corners again. Just there. You can leave some light in the middle if you wish, and just spraying now to make it move a bit. And my paper is just soaking up this water so quickly. I'm just doing quick strokes across, and I left a little bit of light in the middle there. And I think I'm going to stop messing, because I think if I do it much more fiddling, it will probably not work and go muddy. So I think it's another dry, and I'll let you catch up. Once everything is dry, and I've done 2 layers of this, I'm going to just wet the bottom where the ground is. So my paper is just soaking up water. It's not brilliant. So it's not as much water as we had at the top, but a fair amount. Now I'm going to use the dark mix again. And I'm going to put a line. Then I'm going to leave some white spaces, because these will become our stones. I'm still using the big brush. So leave a few white spaces, and they become stones. Looks like a choppy sea rather than that. There'll be some stones in there. We can pick those out in a bit. If you went a little bit over your line, don't worry when you the water, because you can make some bushes. It doesn't have to be straight. So I've just squiggled in some bushes because I've got some water there. And they will, because there's water there, they'll just soften away. You can see how they're traveling up. I'm just going to give that a dab. So these here look like little grassy, bushy things at the top there. So I'll wait for you to catch up. So where the tree, I've marked the trees roughly. I need some dark colour, so I'm going to have a bit of Payne's grey and a tiny bit of alizarin crimson in there, and a bit of red, just to, or you could use a bit of sepia, a bit of brown to grey it down a bit. So it's a browny grey, and this is dry brushing, so the brush needs to be fairly dry. Your paint is, it's not thick, but it's more than wishy-washy. And I've got a that size brush. And we start. And I'm just going to go, I'm moving my brush around, doing it different places, pushing it down. And just making marks. I'm really treating the brush quite horribly, just pushing it into the paper. And then having some little marks at the top where you can just see some leaves. And that's it. So I'll show you again on a piece of paper. So I'm just pushing, oops, paint, pushing down. This is a different piece of paper, so different paper. So, but I'm pushing the brush quite hard in, and it's making those random marks. My brush isn't very wet. My paint's quite strong. So a little bit of sepia, a little bit of brown, a little bit of Payne's grey. So you've got a really grey. So I'm going to come over this side. And if you've got too much paint on or too much water on, just dab it on a kitchen towel. I'm just randomly hitting the paper with my brush, and then a few little dabs to make those little leaves that you can see at the top. That's a lighter one than that one, but that's how it goes. That's it for that big brush. If you're not sure, always just practice on a piece of paper, and you get the idea. So I'm just pushing it into the paper and twisting the hand and twisting each way that I'm painting it, so it's random. And you get that look where you can still see through the trees. They're not solid, and it gives the impression it's leaves and branches and stuff sticking out and about. And the next bit, with the same color, because it's sunset, these trees are silhouetted, so the same color, maybe just a bit thicker mix, and we then draw some trunks in. So I'm coming from, well, I suppose let's start this side, coming from the bottom with a shaky hand up. I see I've made use of that little gap I've got. Now you might not have one, but you'll have a gap somewhere else. And another branch comes up. I'm just going to make that a little bit fatter down the bottom. And the same with this one, this next one. I'm just wiggling my hand so that I'll get a wiggly branch and trunk. Trees are sort of got sharp angles like this bit here. They've got sharp angles and bits growing out, and they're not particularly uniform in their trunks. Now I could, if I wanted, I could do another one here, which I'm going to do. That's it. And I'm just pulling that branch out between the leaves there. If you've got some gaps, you can actually see this branch here. I've got a gap there. So I'm just going to draw a little line, and that looks like that branch is still going on up through. And the same with that little gap there. Don't fill all the gaps in with a branch, but just a few. And then I'm going to just do one sticking out, because they sometimes have dead ones sticking out. Just so I've just got 2 on that one. And then coming over to this side, I'll start over here. The same thing with the trunk. So I've done quite a spindly trunk, because for some reason I like the spindly trees better, but and then a branch coming right from down the bottom up to meet the trees. And then I'm going to carry that one on because I've got a gap. So I pulled it through there, and it can stick up there. This next one, I'm going to start him closer and then make him, he's had a tough life. He's got a branch coming up there. So I've got 3 that side, and I'll leave a big gap now, and this one can come up here. I'm going to give a thicken hidden down the bottom there. Now I don't suppose I should have 3 each side, so I'm just going to do a spindly little one going up there. That's it. That's better. So he's very spindly. I don't think any of them had a good life. I'm just going to put up a couple of branches up into the sky. I've got pencil marks here, which will be able to, once everything's dry, I can rub it out. Right, so I'll let you. So picks and stones. So I'm going to have a dark blue, a bit darker than the ground, and I've got some white bits. Here's a white bit. So I'm just going to draw a line underneath and then thicken that line. And here's one here. So I draw a line underneath, thicken the line. You're just making the shadow under the stone. I've got a long stone here. I make it thicker, the line thicker at one end than the other. Here's another long one. Have a look to see what your lines are like, your white bits or lighter coloured bits. And then just thicken them up in places. I've got this great big long one. So come down there. I want it thicker at the left side than the right, and it peters out over there. Where else have I got one? Here. And there's one there. And there's a bit of a one there. It's always thicker on the left side for me. Just so you're doing an elongated triangle, really. And depending on where you put the thickness, it probably makes the shape of the stone or rock. Where else can we have one? There. And I think that's about it for me. But any light patches you can turn into a rock. Just by underlining them and making them a shadow. That's some rocky ground, that is. I'm going to make some more splat. And I'm going to cover up the rest of it. I'm just doing it in on my left-hand corner here. That's saved that. And then I'm just going to, with a liner and some dark paint, and just, that's too wet. Just going to brush in a few grassy bits at the sides. Just some tiny little uprights for grass. Not on everyone, and not in the same place. Just doing a bit of fiddling now. Along that broken edge, I'm just putting some some, with my rigger, just some blades of grass. And then you can just, with your finger, just push them and it softens them. You get mucky fingers, but it softens them out. And you can do the same with these down here. Just soften them out a bit. And the last remaining thing to do is, with a bit of Payne's Grey, and Nicole's already done this, is to put in some birds. Where have I got some splat? Oh, there's one. Is that splat? No. So I'm taking your gaze from this side over to this side, using birds. Put them at different angles, and then then they look as if they're randomly flying. So we come up the tree, up to the sky, put a bird in, and then that bird takes you round there and over to the other side. And I think that is it. So I'm going to stop recording.